welcome to the Kitoko podcast here by the INNOArchitects, right to the Gurten. It's a place where you can go up to the highest mountain in Bern. And I'm here with Amadeo. Welcome, Amadeo.
Hi, everyone.
And Michi.
Welcome, everybody.
Nice to have you here. I'm really looking forward today. We are here with INNOArchitects, and maybe Michi, tell us something about you, about your personality, what makes you special, and who are you?
Okay, no idea if I'm special or not. I'm 53-year-old, living in close to Biel. So I mainly speak German and French and some English. So we'll see. If I don't pick up a word in English, the right word, I just want to mention it in French or in German. So.
Or we have.
Perfect. In my spare time, I often traveling around the world. Mostly I have a kind of travel project. So it's not just lazy beaches and stuff like that.
Mm.
The last one I had about a couple of years ago, I followed I followed the route of Papillon. He was a prisoner in French Guiana, and he just escaped from this prison all around. So I make the Caribbean Sea and Colombia a lot of time and stuff like that. That's what I do in my spare time. In my business time, or I just work here by INNOArchitects since 1 year and a half. I'm just enforce the crew of organization development, and we specialized more in designing org structures with a different kind of hierarchy.
This sounds very interesting.
It's very interesting. It's like it's a field you never stop exploring.
Should we just dive in? I feel like I'm curious about this special. What is it special, or is it a special methodology developed by you? Or tell us a little bit more.
No,
or your
not,
understanding.
It's not developed by us. It's more based on sociocracy stuff. So we just the big difference is you don't delegate power like in a hierarchy, in a pyramid hierarchy. You verteilen, you share, or you just give it in the side, and you make the power in roles and not in persons. That's the great difference. Most people almost everybody have different roles in this kind of organization system we have in INNOArchitects. So based on sociocracy and not invented by us, but just customized what's fit for us.
What makes it in your opinion? What's good about that style, about sociocracy? What helps you? Or what enables?
To implement, or just to live in?
To live in, to lead in, to make business in, to work in. What are the good sides?
The good sides is, in this kind of organization structure, you make always little small reorganizations. So you make the organization better and better. And it fit to the reality and our idea or our bet for the future. So you make constantly reorganizations. You balance power constantly up. You create focus what's really needed right at the moment, and maybe for the next three months. That's a big advantage. And the other is you have rules to follow. So the rules are transparent, how you work in this. So if you make a organization, you create a new role, because it's something we need to create a new role, it's new work coming, or we have a new focus, and how you create it, it's transparent. So everybody has to follow this rule. So it's not the hierarchy boss who said, I want to have it like that, that, and that. So it's just the authority is in the role, and you have different roles with different authorities.
And can I ask, do you have some examples for rules?
Yeah, for role, like...
Or for a rule, not the role, the rule. What kind of rules, for example, can you mention some?
Okay. One kind of rule is this... how you call it in English? If you make an organization, or if you develop the organization, you make a little small reorganization. One rule is you have to prove that will harm your company really with data, otherwise you can do it. So it's not the boss who said, I think it's not a good idea. It's more everybody have to prove if we do it like that, like the proposal, it harms the company. It's not an idea, it's more based on it. Like that, you have always the possibility to try something out. Because the worst thing is, if it's not working, you just move it back if it's necessary with the same rules. That's one rule. Or the rule is, in the roles you have rights, but you have also expectations to have to be done by other roles. And it's always the role. Sometimes the boss comes to me and say, Michael, can you do that and that and that? And I ask him, in which role do you ask me that? So I verify if he has the power to give me an order or something I have to do.
So it depends on the role.
If
you have to do
totally,
okay.
The whole power and performance is in a role. And on one role, you can have different person on it. And every person has different roles. I have a role as a kind of expert and teacher in the academy, where Hans worked then. But I have also a role like organization development ninja. So that's totally different work. And I have, every hour I have a spare time, I ask me, what do I force right now? In which role do I do something to make the most success for the company?
And how many roles do you have?
I think about 7.
Oh, isn't that a lot?
That's a lot, but some roles maybe are asked once a month, or because it's really specific work I have to do. And I make once a year, I make a kind of spring cleaning, not a spring break, spring cleaning. And I look to my roles and I say, in which role do I not bring any performance for the last 3 months or 4 months or maybe a year? And if I see, then it's the question, maybe the role is not necessary right now, or I'm not the right person for this role. So that's the dealing there. Sometimes I just clear the role. I just take a governance meeting. That's where the rules are, and I just clear the role. Or I go to the role who has the authority and accountability to make people on the role. It's also a role. I go to him and say, take me away of this role because I haven't worked it for a year or for 3 months or whatever. Yeah.
So interesting. And then on the other hand, you said like, yeah, we're doing a lot of reorganizations all the time. For me, that sounds exhausted. Just for my view. To ask you, do you have on the other hand some points which you recognize? Hey, what are bad sides of this organization, or where you see, hey, this is not easy, or there we have some pains in terms of this organizational structure.
Yeah, maybe first word of a lot of reorganizations. There are mostly small reorganizations. there are mostly just to clarify maybe the accountabilities in a role, or to create a new role, because this kind of work it's not clear see in the organization. So maybe one example how fast it's go. We had Monday a kind of role meeting, we call them, where we work on the organization in our circle of strategy and organization development. And we made, I think, 12 adjustments on the organization in an hour. Because they're really clear. We don't have endless discussion. Like I said, if you have a kind of idea that could harm, not an idea, just a proof that could harm the organizations, that's just we just treat this topic, and not thousands of ideas there also in the room how we can do it. Huh? On the other side, it's necessary, or we have to take care in this kind of organization. It's necessary people are super motivated. We have a kind of positive picture of the human. So we think everybody working here try to do the best for the company. So you give them a lot of freedom in the role. They can do it. Huh? And if it's not forbidden, you can do it. And if it's something, some other roles, they're not agree, they just can, with this kind of rules, just change stuff. It's really transparent thing. Then power shift, it's a big theme in kind of organizations, if you implement kind of organizations, because people are mostly used, or management are mostly used to have a lot of power. They can decide on every decision if they want. Here, it's the decision process in the role. So the accountabilities and the power is in the role. So for former manager, sometimes it's really hard to give this kind of hierarchy power away. And then we have to work with people. Huh? And you have, on the other hand, often you have a kind of informal hierarchy. That means it's not the top of the pyramid who decides. Sometimes it's just the Gandalf of the organization who was there for 30 years and he has an authority. It's just a natural authority. That's also a kind of hierarchy. We have to take care. Yeah, that's I think the bad thing is power shift of the management. We have really to work, but they're really happy after, because they say, hey, now I don't have every decision on my table. I can really focus on stuff. And I think it's super motivated, and everybody has the power to make some small reorganizations. So everybody from the bottom, everybody who has a role can initiate a change of the organization and cannot be overruled by a founder or stuff like that. Because the only reason to overrule it or to make it even better, the proposal, is if it harms the company. And if it not harms the company, we just try it out. Make it sense to you?
Makes sense, yeah. So I like the point of shift in power. So you said on one side it's about the managers who need to let go. So it's new from the people who have now more power. So what would you say? Is it more difficult for the managers to let go? But on the other side is also the people that are working since years or decades, like in the old fashioned way, and now they need to take more responsibility. So it's also new for them. So how would you describe this change?
I think it's for both sides. It's a different kind of work, or a different kind of how you feel in the work. It's like to give power away, but on the other hand, it's the role who take this power. Then it's more to take the responsibility to make something. I had a interesting discussion one time with one of the top managers here in Switzerland about responsibility, Vertrauen, Verantwortung, and trust. How you balance that? How I feel you trust me that I take this task, and how he feel I take the responsibility to make this task. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff, and that's processes you have to active discuss with people, and also sometimes you have to figure out in kind of organizations what kind of power shift it's doable for this organization. Sometimes you have a bit, you make a role with a kind of power, give a good feeling, and then in involving the organization to take the power step by step out. But it gives the possibility for the manager to create a safe space, a safe environment. And some organizations, they just want to have the full Monty, so they just want to have it really, really consequent role model.
And yeah, the topic we're talking about is very complex, is a huge field, and for some people it's not easy to grasp, and yeah, it's more a process. It's not like a one-time meeting or a one-time strategy setup. So how would you describe this field of organizational development? Maybe what are the main principles in this work, or maybe your principles to work on that?
Yeah. First is to understand if the work an organization do, it fits with this kind of organization. If it's and it fits mostly if you are in a high complexity. If you are in something, everything pass always the same. Like, I don't know, a coffee shop. You just put out the coffee and stuff like that, or like a construction. No idea how it's say in English, where you put together the cars. That's highly structured, and you have complexity is nothing different than you have no idea or no idea what happens next, but you have a lot of options to act. That's complexity. If you have no idea what happens and you have thousands of options to act, and that's complexity. And in this kind of organization, in this kind of context, it's super cool to have a kind of role modeling. Give me again the question. I just try to. About
this field of organizational development, the complexity. So what helps you to find simplicity in this complexity?
Yeah. I think it's there are three major steps we do. One is just to figure out if it's the right organization, what I just mentioned before, for this kind of work, this part of organization or this company has to do.
So just a little question in between. What
about the complexity? If you are in a complex environment, this kind of role model, it's super useful.
So then you decide, okay, the complexity is enough. The role model fits. Yeah, we can go. That's the first step, huh? Okay.
First step, we can go, and then also in the first step is just to discuss this kind of power shift. Huh?
Okay, yeah.
How much power he will give away at the beginning, and sometimes it's a little bit less, but it has to be, to make it serious, just a major shift, but maybe not totally shift.
Okay.
And then you just figure out stuff like that, and then you create the organization. Then you say, okay, what kind of tasks are done in this organization? And this task, you just you consolidate them in roles, and then you have kind of a start configuration, and you bring the people this kind of rules and different meeting formats. They're necessary. You go in and start to practice. practice, practice. And it's like playing an instrument. It's a practice, practice, practice. And after 2 or 3 months, you have really the soul of this kind of organization you have in you. And then you can also ask yourself about role-soul fit, we say. If it's the right person, I'm on the right roles or not? Do I feel good? Do I feel bad in a role, or some roles I don't really fit the expectation of other roles and stuff like that? Then it works, and it works like the rules I described before. Mm-hmm. Then you make adaptation changes, stuff like that, or you go out of roles. I would never take a finance role because for me it's boring, and I don't do it really well. So I can focus my energy on stuff I really want to learn, or I bring the performance best for the company. And finance, it's definitely not my thing. Before, in a hierarchy, I had to manage budgets and stuff like that. It was always my hate day. So here, I just focus on my roles. I really think that's the most performance. And also here, I want to learn something more. And finance is definitely not a role I want to take.
So happy for you that you found a place like this where you can focus on your strengths, your interests. And I just also another question popped into my mind. So when we talk about the shift in power, so we also talk about the new way of leading, or is it actually necessary to still to lead, or how are the circles or the subgroups organized? How do they manage this themselves when it's not about delegation or power from above?
It's definitely necessary to lead, but you don't lead as a Michael. I lead in my roles. But that's a different. In the roles I have a couple of accountabilities where I have the power in. And how we look on leadership or on management, that's not a position, that's a work, it's a profession to do. So we have different functions like decision making. Once you have to decide which kind of decisions do I make by power or by expertise? Which kind of decisions do I make by my own or in a team? Which decisions are made by centralized or decentralized? That's always stuff you have to think. And like that, you have maybe 15 different functions in leadership. And you just do it like that. But you lead in a role. I have the power in my role, organization, development ninja, to make the offerings, to set prices, to design the processes, stuff like that. Yeah, you have to lead, but it's a different leading. You lead out of a role and not out of, I don't know, founder of INNOArchitects. They have different roles. And some leading roles may be important. There are some leading roles, and they have maybe the power to put people on a role or to have budgeting and to make prioritizations. That's a kind leading role, but just on these topics I just mentioned. And we have a kind of inner board here. That's like a board of directors, but are not just directors in. So some people are elected from the circles or the roles to are in there, elected by the people here. You have founders, and you have maybe 3 or 4 elected for it.
I don't know how we're doing with the time. It's a very interesting talk. I think you have an important meeting, but I have so many more questions. So maybe we can, shorten to 1 or 2 questions. Arno, maybe you have also one. But
my last question for you is: you told before, you check how the complexity is, and then you go in. You start to work to go into and make it like sounding, make it the organization that they sound like a nice jazz musical, as you said. But how do you enable that this musical goes on afterwards when you go out? Maybe that's my last question to also the listener outside, that you not just go in, change a little bit, and then go out and everything goes back. How do you try to enable that?
Two main steps. One is really make sure the people understand the philosophy of this kind of organization, and then in some key roles, just make them some trainings. Like the facilitator, in every meeting is a facilitator, and he has to make sure the rules are accepted, or the rules are accepted. So you have a training of this facilitator, or on the other side you go more in persons, like there's a training with the former management. That's training, and after 2-3 months they have the mechanic of this new, or the movement of this new organization, they have it in. And then you go just with special topic coachings, and they are different from organization to organization. Sometimes you really have to work more on PowerShift. Sometimes we have to improve the facilitation skills. Sometimes you have to improve the people feel in the role, so they not act as a person, so as a symbiosis between person and role. So it's special topics, set up the organization, train the people, and then go in with special topics to make it better. Yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah, sadly, that was my last question. But that one now you.
But a good one, an interesting one. Yeah, my last question to you, Michi, would be, what does it take for a manager who was used to the old way of an organization structure or way of leading since 20 years or 10 years, and now we're coming with new progressive methods? So would you say it's the power from outside or the uncertainty from outside that brings them to this change, or what does it need for a manager to be open for the new things?
Yeah, I think to see the potential of the organization. On the other hand, I just said about decision making before. If I ask managers, if we talk about this kind of role models organization, or organization based on roles, how many times in a day you have a topic on your table and you ask you, why the hell do I decide this? Why is that on my table? And if you have a structure, we give the power to roles, and the people who fill in this role, that's more or less on a table you have there. Manager have this conflict to prepare the company for the future. That's more looked. What do you have to do for have success in 2, 5, 6 years? That's on one side. That's the main work they had to do. But normally they're overwhelmed about operational tasks or operational problems. And this thing you just put it then in roles. You gain freedom to think about the success of the company in the future.
Thank you so much, Michi, for the podcast.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you here from INNOArchitects, and I wish you a really good day.
Thank you.
And,
you too.
Thank you so much. And we see each other soon in another way maybe. And I wish all a really nice podcast. Enjoy this and see you soon.
See you soon, merci.